Hello everyone, my name is Christian. Welcome to my hobby blog. Today we are going to review a recent Vinegar Syndrome partner label title released by ETR. I'm unsure what the full name is, but this is the recent release, Commando Ninja. This movie is very much in the genre like Kung Fury, but the difference between this and Kung Fury is that I loved Kung Fury a lot more. It was a lot more creative, a lot more used a lot. I'm trying to think of a way to explain this because I watched the movie and I loved the first half, and then the moment he starts training, the movie falls off a lot for me. And the ending is like, okay, whatever. Like, the gore effects are great in this. It's all practical for the most part, which is like really nice because this was a crowd-funded movie through Kickstarter, and it's made by a French film crew. Not really a crew, because I watched about 10 minutes or 15 minutes of the making of documentary that's on this release, and I had a suspicion while I was watching this movie, because I'm not at all beholden to the 80s nostalgia. I understand why people feel that way, but to me, I don't really have nostalgia for an era. There's really great things about every time period or era, and there's also very terrible things. So I'm just kind of like muted. I like my genres. I like specific movies that this movie is taking from, but I had a suspicion that this director was an 80s kid. He saw a bunch of the revival of the 80s aesthetic, 80s movies, and he said, I want to do that. I had a suspicion that that happened. And watching the behind the scenes documentary, he says that. He says that he saw Stranger Things coming out. He saw Kung Fury, which, I had a sneaking suspicion that he saw that movie specifically and wanted to make this, and I was right. And Kung Fury is very original, hilarious. The lead is a lot more charismatic than this one, but it was just really funny watching the behind the scenes because this is a total passion project, which I'm fine with. I thought in terms of passion projects, this is a better one that I've seen, but it seemed like they had a lot of great ideas, but they wanted to appeal to the nostalgia side, and that was the part that lost me a lot because they had entire scenes from Predator, just anything 80s related. It felt like reading that Ready Player One book, which is all about like video game culture and stuff, and the author is just shoving in as many references as possible so that you feel, oh boy, this is such a great book, it has everything I love, while not really doing anything with it. And the movie Ready Player One was a little better about that, but it was still like shoving everything in your face, being like, look at us. And I'm trying not to be negative. It's not as bad as like Saint Bernard, for example. But this one, I respect the crew a lot because it was a group of 5 people, and they did this all on their own. They used practical effects, they used squibs, they did everything in the book, so it's well made. It's just because I'm not an 80s kid. I was born in the late 90s, mid to late. And then I grew up in the 2000s, so I don't have any emotional resonance with the 80s. I view the 80s as kind of like a scary time. I know of the whole milk carton thing where like kids were always getting abducted in this time. AIDS was a big thing in the 80s. Like all these terrible things. That's why I don't have any nostalgia for the 80s, because it's definitely a rose-colored glasses situation. But this movie is awesome in the first half. Watch the first half. I think this could have been shortened down. It's an hour exactly. but it could have shaved off another 15 minutes. A lot of the training sequences go on for like 10 minutes. So like sometimes even a quarter of the runtime is one scene. And everything, all the gun battles are a lot of fun. It was hyped up that there were gonna be dinosaurs. There's one scene with a dinosaur, and it looks awful. It doesn't look like they bought one of those T-Rex, like raptor suits that people put on. It didn't look as bad as that, but, you know, they at least made it practical. Like, I gotta respect them for that. They had all the tropes, every single trope that you can find in an 80s action movie. I was shocked to see that it wasn't made by an American. When I turned on the behind the scenes documentary, this guy started talking, and I was like, they didn't have subtitles like turned on. I was like, I'm not understanding this. Am I having a stroke? And I realized, oh boy, this isn't English, this is French. And I turned on the subtitles, had to manually do that. And then he was like, oh yeah, I grew up on this, like this was awesome. And I was like, oh, everything becomes clear for me now. And I think if you're someone who grew up in the 80s, this is probably so awesome and badass, and every single reference probably made you happy. I need more than just references. So this was okay. I think the gunfights were the best. The fight choreography was not the best either. And so I think it was the gun battles were probably the best part. So that's really all I have to say is a short review. I thought it was cool until it wasn't. I love the slipcover. I may just keep it just to have this on my shelf. And then whoever wants to watch it can. But, yeah, that's really all I have to say. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all later.